This is the Spider Tank, a classic sci-fi design, obviously inspired by traditional armor and weaponry, albeit with an animalistic twist. It's featured in many comics and movies, here seen in the classic anime Paddleboard 2 by Mamoru Oshii of Ghost in the Shell fame. In this video, I'll take you through the detailed modeling phase, the design, layout and character phase, as well as the stencil and texturing phase, but most importantly, I'll reveal the classic anthropomorphization trick that you can use to make your designs super relatable. Welcome to Technical. My name is Rasmus. I'm an art director and designer with 20 years of professional games development experience, and I'm on a mission to inspire and empower designers, makers, and creators. Design the future. Let's go. So here you can see I am in Blender, obviously, and I'm skipping a few steps because I actually forgot to record the modeling of the conning tower there. So what I'm doing here is I am stealing the tracks from a Russian tank model that I got off Sketchfab or some sort of online 3D source, actually in the moment I forget. And you can see I know straight off the bat that I need these tracks to be chunky boys. I need them to be quite substantial. So I dip into this particular element here and I start to really roughly scoop out some, scoops for the tracks to make them feel much more like the old Neo Geo anime classic Metal Slug, if any one of you recall that. You know, where the tracks of the particular, this is a really chunky cartoon tank, and the tracks have this really almost cute caterpillar-like aesthetic that especially anime has been using a lot. I think there's a lot of designers that use that particular aesthetic, and it's always something that has inspired me a lot. So chunk up the tracks there, add in some wheels, and I have this idea of these legs that I want to do. The quad tank, the tracked spider tank is a classic, and as you'll see normally, or as you normally see in my videos, I twitch back and forth, and so I leave the tracks and the leg there, be like, yeah, okay, this is fine for now. Let's get back to the conning tower there, and I'm playing with these sides here, and you can see I have some issues to fix here. You know, that's how it goes. Some cutaways or something that doesn't work for the application I have in mind here, and I know I want a relatively modern but not super futuristic feel, so I'm going for, I suppose, the era of me growing up, so the 90s, so sort of an Abrams type look for the front there, with that angled away from where the cannon would be. And I know I have this disc as well, where the conning tower sits upon, almost like a battleship. I want it to be a big tower, and I have some shapes here that play along with that disc shape a little bit more interestingly. I need some shapes that speak to it, if you will. And of course, the Model Shop Rebuild Pack has all these bits and pieces and cylindrical elements and stuff like that, so it's easy to steal some elements there and get some details in. And I know this isn't realistic for a tank. You don't want big gaps, you don't want mechanics where sand can get stuck into and all that stuff. But you know me, I don't give a damn. It's about giving a sensation of strength and a sensation of functionality that you can understand immediately. And for quite a while, I've been doing designs that have these pneumatic joints on them. So it's almost like you have, instead of a tank tower, you have a head that can swivel. And I know I'm not going to explain that in this current build, so I'm just adding in some quick pneumatics that can sort of explain that look. In a future build, I might pose it in a way that makes it necessary to really accentuate this, and we'll come back to that then, if that's the case. So, quick body placeholder, I take one of these jet engines, or these rocket space engines from the Rebuild Pack, and I just place that in the middle there, so I can come back to the fun of really playing with these legs here. And so you can see I'm working on each element a little bit back and forth, and that is to never sort of get lost in the detail before I come back to the whole. So I constantly come back from a detail out to the whole, back to a detail. And with that way of working, I'm ensuring that I'm always keeping an eye for the big picture and never quite getting lost in the detail. I think it's super, super important because let's say you work on big picture only, you might miss the opportunity to have details actually inform what you're doing, and vice versa. If you're in the detail, obviously you might completely lose touch with the big picture. And big picture, of course, here we're talking about rhythm, we're talking about composition of elements, I think I'm certainly hitting the lower limit for what I should be at this stage here with the wheels there. But I know I need to design a joint for this leg, and I know I need to have a body, of course, underneath the turret, even though the turret is the main characterization and the main element of the tank in many ways. I know that the joints have to feel substantial and they have to feel quite chunky. And you can see here I'm adding a bottom to the conning tower there, so it's almost like it's one big cylindrical housing upon which there are shoulders and joints and pivot points and whatnot, and a bit of armor here and there. So it's really one big cylindrical housing for the motors that house the pneumatics for the conning tower. And actually, it's funny with the notion of the pneumatics here, you don't need a circular shape at all. You can just have these 4, 6, 8 pivot points for the pneumatic clusters. So that shape is simply to give you an experience of something relatable, almost like a battleship strength shape, to really get you to understand how strong this device is. So adding some fake suspension for the joints. And this is really, really fake. I was discussing this with an old friend of mine the other day, and he's obsessed with robotics and functionality and making things work, where I would say I'm certainly not. I'm obsessed with the illusion of having it work. So I'm doing sort of almost like crane pneumatics, motorcycle suspension type flavor here. It's almost like a quad bike beefed up. And I am assuming that it's strong enough to hold up. If I was to animate this, I'm certainly not, but if I was to, the animation and the weight transfer and how things bend and how things sort of are weighed down would really communicate the strength of the weight of this object here, the quad tank. So you can see again, actually it's kind of funny when I'm recording this and I'm looking back at the video and I see how fidgety I am with all kinds of elements. So I'm doing the grill there on the left, and now back to the legs there, using some of these I-beams that I made for the suspension parts to build a structure around the tracks. Again, here trying to make some interesting shapes for the legs, and you can see this is what I mean. I really quickly copy them out, angle them out to give it a bit of flavor, and this, I know I'm not committing to the design, I'm simply testing how it feels. So this is me sketching in 3D, right? We talk about this quite a bit on the channel, that I don't sketch so much, and I would implore you to just go ahead and model and be free and let go. Don't get stuck in the mindset that 3D offers you, which is perfection and detail only. Be free, fool around, have some fun. And you can see I'm playing with the shaders here because I'm actually doing a shader pack these days. So essentially I'm building this tank here to showcase the shaders, and because I've always wanted to build a tracked spider tank type thing. So I'm stealing a scene from an earlier scene to just test a few things out, and I decide that I'm not fully satisfied with the chunkiness of the tracks. I need more detail on that. And of course, this is some of those things where you can really spend an eternity on. But it's important that these tracks have three-dimensionality to them, and that they have angles, and that they look really aggressive, that they can, you can imagine some dust clouds with some wheel spin on these bad boys. And that's really the idea, like really, really chunky. They should be scooping up like they can crawl along. Just a little bit of soft edges here and there to make it feel a bit more delicious. But again, trying to not make too much detail. And you can see the setup is made by, it's an array that follows a track or something. Techniques that I'm not particularly good at. So I'm just using the method that came with that tank model there. Coming in and adjusting things. That's one of the benefits of using an asset pack like the People Pack, or me using a tank here I got online, is that you can really, dare I say, disrespect the material, right? You're not beholden to the time that it's spent to make the assets, so you can just fool around. And I think the liberty of that and the freedom that offers you to just fool around and be free is key to the creativity that 3D can offer us. That, you know, I'm fighting for you guys to get to share that mindset with me, that, you know, let's just have some fun, let's move around, smash bits into each other, and be free. So you know, be aware that there's a period certainly for control and finesse and refinement, but there's also a period for just fooling around and letting shapes blend into each other. And as suspension parts, you need those. You know, to think in 3 dimensions, but with a sketchy mindset where you aren't really concerned about the detail as such. Of course, on this channel, we talk a lot about the downside of that, which means that all of a sudden you might have some debt, either technical, setup-wise, or some solutions that were smart when you're moving fast that might be detrimental when moving slow. But I would still argue that moving fast is a benefit, because then you know what you're doing, right? You have sketched out some shapes and you have a sense of where you want to go with it, which makes you much more confident when you finally get to actually land shapes and details. At least that's how I feel. So back to the conning tower. I know I don't want a big cannon. I want some sort of object, some lens object or some sensory device or something that can look odd and futuristic. So I like having a bit of vagueness in the technology, like what is it projecting from those and whatnot. I know I want interesting, lobstery, crabby type shapes that intersect in weird ways, and where of course crabs and lobsters have this strange soft filament between its shell parts. There's just air here, but that notion of having something that feels almost biological and almost like insectoid, or what are crabs called? Undersea creatures, sea insects, you know what I mean? Having that sort of shape there can give some really interesting flavors to it. Back to the conning tower, I decide that, you know, building out this sensory array a little bit, situating it in front of the nose where the cannon would normally be, and then having this hump back on the left side of the conning tower there, that will then house objects, engineering, compactness or something. I'm not quite sure at this stage what it's going to be, and I'm again playing vague sensory aesthetics, if you will. And I like these sensory clusters, again, very Japanese inspired, very Gundam inspired. And because it's hard surface, I don't really worry too much about intersecting parts. That's the benefit of this particular aesthetic. I mean, you could certainly choose to go and fix the welds and everything like that. And I know people who do that, and they do that very well, and it looks awesome. But for my particular mindset, I prefer to move fast, break things, and see what happens. So here I'm exploring a little bit what to do with that underside there. You can almost imagine this as a grasshopper or a buggy or some sort of off-road vehicle where the chest of the underside there would have some sort of armor on it or whatever. Quickly back to the conning tower, and this is actually probably the most realistic detail. I'm doing intakes and exhausts for what I would imagine to be the cooling system for the engines inside. I know I want a bit more interesting shapes to the tower there, and I felt that how it intersected with this particular battleship type disc felt a little undercooked, felt a little not super interesting. And you can see it's a mix of positive and negative shapes, where there's a bit of a cutout to allow for the visibility of that big disc shape, and then a cutout within the cutout where these pipes are then coming out of. Again, it doesn't really make sense from an armor point of view. So I'm trying to figure out, should I place armor plating or reactive armor or something in and around that space? around to make sure that it wouldn't be, too, let's say, sensitive to enemy fire or whatever. But I don't really like how it looks, so I actually choose to... I'm battling back and forth here with this. Back and forth, and I feel like it's occluding the shapes that I actually just built that I kind of like. But, I haven't quite understood that yet, so back and forth. Back to the main body. I knew that shape from before was a placeholder. I knew that all along. So now I gotta do something that looks more credible. And here what I'm doing is inspired by what you might have seen on an Apache or a Cobra helicopter, or the Hind helicopter. You have these ducts from the exhausts, I assume, to dissipate the heat patterns so that they are less sensitive to heat-seeking missiles and whatnot. So I figured having two big exhausts on the back there would be good. It would feel like there's a lot of heat coming out. It would feel like there's a lot of dissipation needed, and it feels like it's vaguely familiar from other weapon systems that you might have seen in the real world. Here up front, I'm struggling with how complex to make the shapes. And again, trying to just steal some bits back and forth, and I don't know, it looks a little messy to me. So I decide to leave that struggle and come back to the joints there and put some details into that, and come back to this tech sensory apparatus in the middle and place some of these, I guess they are sort of half-finished jet engine shapes or whatever, into that to get some technological detail. Is this meant to look like this, or is that because the cowl is missing? I think the cowl is missing, but I like how it looks and I like how it adds some detail to the shape. Here I'm exploring adding a what do you call that, manhole to the shell, to both indicate scale and also to indicate that it is manned. There would be people on board. And how tall is that conning tower? Can it really fit humans? I don't know. Would they be pretty cramped? I think so. I'm not worried about that at this stage, because I think you could always argue that people are required to climb in and squeeze, and it gets really cramped and weird. I think that's quite normal in terms of weaponry, so I don't think that's unexpected, to be honest. Back to the shape here, I felt it needed some negative shapes, kind of similar to what the conning tower felt like. I felt that needed a cutout for that particular disc shape underneath. So there's something about positive and negative shapes that intersect with each other that it has to have a flow that's interesting to really work. Here I'm deciding to add magazines for the weaponry that the tank doesn't really have yet, but I figured some canisters that look, almost World War II like is a good move. And here I'm adding some thingamajigs. I suppose that's for if you want to strap things in and around the conning tower, if you need to carry some stuff with you, or bring some firewood for the winter, or what do I know, maybe strap some tarp down or whatever. But again, these details that allude to a certain functionality and a certain use case excuse me, is always good. I take one of my favorite cannons here and I add it to the side, and I'm trying to figure out how to position it in place on the side. Again, you can see if the idea doesn't work, I just abandon it, and then my eye catches something else, the canisters or whatever, and I just twiddle with them a little bit before I come back to the problem that I left behind, namely the joint points for that weapon. And at the same time, my dumb brain decides to just choose some more knickknacks for populating the shape here. So back to the holder of that weaponry there, and I figured it'd be good to have some, I don't know the English word for that, some stanced metal, some simplistically manufactured metallic braces for objects that has then been bolted onto the side of the armored hull. I think that brutal heavy weight of the hull itself with this flimsy metallic lightweight and cheap aesthetic works quite well. So if you want to make your own science fiction scenes and you want to skip ahead a little bit, maybe you're a beginner and you're unsure of where to start, or maybe you're a seasoned pro and you want to speed up your workflow, the Big Medium Small Model Ship Rebels Asset Pack is a great start. It's a pack I made in collaboration with the team, and the intent of that is really to make a pack that feels like Lego, but for spaceship nerds, right? And that pack contains 600 plus items, lots of characters, and lots of little tiny bits so you can remix and build your own stuff. It also has a bunch of poses for these characters, and it has a bunch of hero ships as well that are pre-made for you, so that you can get started quickly. So again, as mentioned, whether you're curious or whether you're a pro that want to speed things up, check it out, link in the description. And in that nose there, you can see I'm treating it like a buggy, really. And adding cables and pipes and tubes, again, something that you would want to avoid in the real world, but something that gives nice detail for the eye and alludes to complexity and maybe even customization. Radar dish and this sort of phalanx-inspired radar dome. And I imagine maybe we want to cover it up so you can't throw stones on it or whatever and smash the shell or something. From the back, maybe it's trying to cover up some weakness in untraditional warfare scenarios where people might damage it from the back. Here I'm alluding to the notion of surfaces that have that rough grading so that you can walk on it with boots without slipping. Let's say it's raining or whatnot. And I suppose in the real world, these come in many different shapes, you know, like almost like gravel mats or undulating metal structures that really function like a steel doormat for the boots of the soldiers in and around this vehicle. I decided to add a little shape underneath the conning tower there. Antenna. We need antennas, of course. And I figured some whiskers. I often do that on my mechs, on my mechanized devices. I give them whiskers sort of as an idea of maybe it has some auto system that it can detect if it touches things that it hasn't seen yet by its other detector systems, like dogs and cats, that it could detect micro movements and things like that. Wind and bushes and whatnot. And here's really the first indicator, or well, the second indicator of scale, namely the handrails for the top structure there. So what is that conning tower? 4 or 5 meters wide, something like that. It's pretty big. And now I feel like I've done my duty, spending some time detailing the conning tower. Yeah, I'm sorry for this video being so flickery. It's maybe I'll do another viewpoint like I did in the past, where I had a secondary screen recorded a steady perspective, so you wouldn't see that flicker of the camera so much. I'll do that next time. But now I've earned, you know, coming back and checking out the posture and positioning of the body here and see how it feels. Again, checking the vibes, checking the attitude, checking to see if it feels good. Something about scale and flavor here. Going back into my shader scene here, and now it's time to test, do some test renders of the beast here. So I take all the elements. So I saved the scene before. That's my work scene. Now I'm just gonna fool around, test some things out. Play some lights, collapse the entirety of the shape, so I can really roughly texture it and just see if what ideas do I generate? What'll come of this? And as you can see, I'm just cylindrical mapping some of these shaders onto smart shaders, so there's some cool wear and tear and whatnot, but also some interesting camo patterns and whatnot. So here a classic sort of half dazzle, half splinter camo, snow, I assume, giving it that high-tech brutal flavor. And I'm like, yeah, this is pretty cool. Trying some classic Vietnam, Second World War maybe, inspired green and brown here. And the classic double headlights, I love that. I don't know where that comes from. Is that T0039 or Kane maybe, or is that also anime, or is it just tanks? You know what? It's probably the dropship from Aliens, to be honest. Those double headlights, can't let go of them. I love them. So here, yeah, another render. You can see I'm just playing. So, okay, again, playing, feeling pretty good about it. Back to the core of the thing. I wasn't loving how the nose of this conning tower looked, so I decided to change it up and make for some different shapes. I needed it to feel a little more armored and a little more blunt, and that's what I'm doing here. I still want my little, what is that, reactive armor maybe, but I decided to put them underneath instead to give some visual interest. This feels like it's a little stronger in its shape, and I like that better. You can see I'm touching some of these same aspects that I did before, refining them, changing the things I didn't like. I'm cutting out a little element of this glow lamp. It has some interesting detail in it that I kind of like, so I'll cut that out and make it into a lamp. There's something about this front here that has to be a little bit simple. It can't be too detailed. It can't steal too much attention from what's important, namely the knees and the joints and the tracks and the conning tower with its instrumentation. It has to just be there and just be functional and give that off-road grasshopper type flavor. So, and you can see here I'm still struggling a little bit with how simple or how complicated should that side element be there. And I didn't like the reactive armor. That stole too much attention away from what I felt worked, even though I like the credibility of it. I feel like this is something that works better, where it's maybe a half house between the two. I decided I need some Canon business on that main cluster there. Since it has this nose that is full of instrumentation, I can give that a gun to that right side. Some structural, what do you say? Guardrails there for the armor pack, and I'm deciding I want some sort of maybe countermeasure device or some sort of device you can't quite understand. And I'm stealing my solar array from the Model Ship Rules pack, and I'm making it into a big box. Maybe it's a dazzle weapon, maybe it's some sort of multi-beam device that can both light and infrared and blast out all kinds of scrambling signals for optical or heat-seeking, whatever cameras or whatever sensors we might have in this particular future where this particular tank exists. And I like insinuating things like that, where I'm like, it's a big thingamajig, it's got an interface you can't understand, therefore it is important and it does the job that you would have thought of, Mr. Smarty Pants. Don't worry, it's all considered. More exhaust panels here. But I think that's the strength of... I don't know what type of weaponry it's meeting in the field, not entirely, but I'm still adhering a little bit to the notion of defending against them, even though I don't have all the answers, because, I mean, I don't know the entire universe this tank exists within. So I have to save time and not write a book. You know, I have to assume a few things and skip over a few things in equal measure. And I know that pisses a lot of people off, because, you know, what they like about this stuff is knowing every single detail. And I can respect that, because I think it's a natural instinct, and I think it's part of the fun of why we enjoy these sort of things. But me, I need to have a rough understanding of what it is. And if you watch my videos, you know that I enjoy giving clues, rather than giving answers. I like for you as the viewer to fill in the blanks, because I think that makes both storytelling, but also environmental storytelling and object design better. And I'm not saying you should only do that, which means there is no logic and it's all just wishy-washy bullshit. That's not what I'm saying. But half and half, I think, is a pretty good way to go about it. So as I call it, a veneer of credibility and a veneer of consideration on top of what is really an experiential design, a design that really makes you feel something, and a design that lets you guess and dream and, be on the journey. Here I'm strengthening the joints a little bit. I got some feedback that the joints felt a little slim, and rather than actually chunking up the joints big time, I decided I just want to add a little bit to them. So I built external structures for strengtheners there. Again, this could be a little gap for some Google business. I'm going to take a little element there and into the gap with it. Maybe that's a service port for something. Again, visual interest, right? I think that area in that big panel there needs some detailing. And in the real world, there would be a hatch for sure, or armor, or whatever, which means it wouldn't be there. But I want it. So I'm putting it there. And here we have some chin cannons, also alluding to the scale of the turret. There's some battleship details. What is it going to do with those vents? Let out water? Yes. I don't know. I think they look cool. This is something about breaking the surfaces just enough to make it interesting. Double the dazzle device. And some more of those harness joints. What are they called? Sometimes English is going really well. Sometimes it's going really not so well. Really poor. I do apologize. Pipework. Again, a sense of, post-engineering. Maybe some extra heating, extra cooling was needed. And these pipes were then laid outside, almost as a precursor for a Mark II design. But maybe you're in the battlefield, there isn't time to roll out a design, so you have to do a sort of half-assed plan in between two actual editions of the tank. These are actually some elements from my cockpits and instruments asset pack, where I have some chunky little canisters that feel much more retro, so it gives it a little bit of a Cold War era flavor, maybe. And wires, the phone wire, it's just a silly thing, but I love them. I think they're so fun. And some of these tubings, again, to make it feel like, for visual interest's sake, I mean, let's be sure, for sure it's that, but again, to give that sense of customization or modification while stationed or in combat. And it's important that you can see I'm playing with the joints here and the posture of this, and I'm pondering with myself how complicated this mechanism should be and how explained it should be and what it can really do, because there's a few things I want. I want the brutality of those tracks need to come up in the area of the conning tower. Again, not very practical, but from a visual point of view, it looks really, really interesting when you have an image. I did these test renders, and when I have an image of the conning tower, and behind it there is this these tracks come in, and this knife-like, shovel-like nature of it feels really brutal and it feels really mean, and that means that I can make shots of it that feel a lot. They feel very brutal, and that's good. Again, testing attitude. Again, time for a little test. You can see the size of the conning tower there, or the turret, really changes the flavor of the beast. And I'm in between here. I'm sort of in the middle. Where too small, it looks very spider-like, but also maybe a little odd, and too big, it becomes a little too clunky. I think this rendition here is reasonably effective. But again, it all comes down to feel, right? It's really about landing something that feels right. At the same time, you know, when you see Abrams or Leopard or something, some of those tanks, they have huge long conning towers because of all the armor and all the reactive armor in the nose, which means they are really long. It's almost like an RV on top of the tracks. It looks really weird and brutal. I like that. So I'm struggling a bit with width versus length for this turret here. And you can see the track arm. The arm that has the track splits in two, like a weird crab or weird undersea creature or something. And there's some thoughts on that about, you know, I want it to be able to pose itself in interesting ways. Here I'm doing, what is that? Wishbones, shoulder pads, chest pieces. Yeah, like again, if you're considering this being a quad buggy, this is almost like the fenders, right? So I figured that the joints there would need some protection from objects and indeed artillery or whatnot. And you know, shoulder pads is always a good thing. You know, Warhammer and whatnot has shown that to us many times. And I feel like with those elements, it's really starting to come together, and now that front is beginning to function. And I feel like I want the same for the knee joint there. Want some sort of pad to cover that up. Again, because of the critique of it feeling a little weak, I feel like I didn't have a successful solution for the joint itself. I couldn't really scale it up without it looking really clunky and kind of weird. So I gave it a knee pad instead. And again, motocross style or combat style, giving it a big chunky knee pad. I feel like that gives some more physical heft and weight to that joint, even though I'm not explaining it with an actual larger diameter joint in itself. The visual weight of that pad does the job for me. Yeah, that feels pretty good. So here I want to give the turret a little bit of protection from the back. You see that sometimes with chains or rubber or grids or things like that. Again, so that people throwing Molotovs or rocket launchers or whatever from the back has a little bit less of a chance of hitting and hurting the joints themselves. Playing with headlights, and you can see I'm building in a structure, so it's just a self-illuminant material, simplest thing in the world, and then I gave this structure to diffuse it so that when it rotates, I know that the blinding nature of the lamp will be rendered naturally in engine without me having to do effects or angle effects or anything weird like that. So this is some strange graffiti madness that's going on here, and recently visited the YouTube and learned a simple technique about making a mixed material and then assigning two UV channels to set material, and then you know, up in your mapper there and over in your right hand side panel, you can choose what UV map to use or what material should be triggered by which UV map, which means I can do super simple stencils. No projections or anything. This is just simple camera projection for a lot of them. And into Photoshop here to you know, I pre-started this texture here, And one lesson I would say, looking at this texture, it's okay, but it's almost like it's too dense. So a piece of advice for you guys, if you want to do something similar, you really should be careful of having the elements too densely packed together, because it makes everything quite complicated when mapping. Having negative space around each object or each graphic makes it easier to map. This is a little bit on the dense side, I would say. Next time I'm going to do one of these, I would probably have more negative space around each object. You can see I'm just freestyling some decal styles here, inspired by all the model kits through the ages, and watching a lot of this stuff. And you can see here I'm cutting in the 3D model. I'm cutting some lines, and I'm just using that to make shapes that I don't have available. You can see I'm cutting, and then I'm mapping that to the white stripes, which means I can make shapes that aren't actually available in the stencil. So if you're a little bit creative and you can cut up your model, you can get very far. You can really, I mean, in theory, you could cut up the shapes of the surface and then just have a white texture. You could then, model your shapes if you wanted to go that far. That might be a little bit too far, but it's possible, which is a good trick to have in the back of the hand if you need that. Of course, I'm trying to just use the graphics as they are, because that's much simpler. Danish seal has 3 lines, so I figured let's do that. And these no step zones, they don't really make sense. Right now, again, I'm gonna say it. It is just a veneer of credibility. Sorry, I lost my voice there. Got a glass of water. Cheers. Yeah, so using this stencil here, again, you can be quite creative. So you can see there, I'm selecting the last parts of the ammo crates. And I'm mapping that, flipping, and then skewing that to get that zigzag pattern. Something I've done before many times. So once you get a few techniques under your belt there, you can really be creative and you can really flex and get far with the limited resources and limited sets of textures and whatnot. Now the difficult part actually is, when to stop playing around. Because as I have this shader pack that I'm developing, it's so much fun to just fool around. And I'm viewing the object from above. Then I'm choosing cylindrical mapping, and while that gives some problems in the front and the back of the object, the benefit is that it allows that camo shape to flow really nicely from the side view up to the top, which of course is where the camera will view it mostly, which means you can get quite far with a simple technique like that, and really cheat and hack. Well, that's my game, but you know what I mean. There's something about solving 90% of the problem there, and then coming back in and properly fixing the last 10%, rather than getting a complete headache for doing it correctly, unwrapping everything, having all these millions of panels in the texture map that you can't draw on, you can't understand it, you can't relate to it, which makes it so mechanical that I find it impossible to work like that. Because I have to relate to each thing I do. I have to relate to the pattern of the camo in Photoshop so that I know I can apply it in 3D to get that feel of how the shapes and the colors flow into each other, right? If it's all scattered and smashed all over the place, that becomes practically impossible. So it's all about relations and relations to each other. And so I don't think I'm fixing all the problems in this particular build, but if I was doing it for real, I would come in and select a few panels here and there where they're stretching and where it behaves poorly. But overall, approaching it in a way where it remains, dare I say, human, understandable, and where you can comprehend the relation of let's say, the pattern of the camo here in relation to the shape that it's being mapped on. that's really important to get a camouflage pattern that looks great. Because of course, the camouflage is to obscure the shape, yes, but it's also, for our needs, is to make it look cool. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger having 3 black stripes across his face because it looks badass. What is that? Commando? Predator? Don't remember. Where, again, it alludes to a use and it's inspired by an actual use case, but what it really is, it's to look cool. Apropos looking cool, this is the key I was talking about in the beginning. The whole design was all right, it was all cool, but what I need to do was to give it a goddamn helmet. It's got 2 eyes, it's got a samurai helmet now. Now it looks badass and ominous and menacing, and it's looking at you. Hello. Who are you? What are you doing here? So the design went from being, okay, sure, cool, quad tank, everyone loves a quad tank, to me understanding that I needed to anthropomorphize it a little bit more to get it to pop. So when the turret looks at you, you go, ugh! It's like you're being viewed by a samurai warrior or Darth Vader or something like that. And that's really important. Again, it comes back to attitude, it comes back to character, it comes back to tension, and human how we relate ourselves to mechanical shapes. And there's a lot of poise, there's a lot of posture, and there's a lot of things you can do in terms of giving an object an attitude like it's almost about to spring. But also like this, we see make to the turret a helmet. Of course, it's obvious, and a helmet that has, World War II vibes. It has samurai vibes. It has all the right vibes to make you go, get a little scared. So I think this tank went from being okay to being, yeah, pretty cool. Did I just praise myself there? Oh, that's embarrassing.